So there's a story that I've been wanting to tell for a long time. It's basically the continuation of a story that started last year in May involving the leprechaun, Irish. So it's parts of it have been told a million times before, but like I said, there's now an update to the story that I've been wanting to tell and just haven't been able to. Now, when this all started, I had about 10,000 subscribers, a little more than that. I now have over 55,000, I think. So some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you have no idea. I'm going to be very brief, but you can check out these two videos. They do basically the best job of going over the entire story in detail. In short, the backstory is, in May of last year, I debated this dude, it wasn't really a debate, but I talked to this dude and utterly humiliated him. We talked a couple of times, and the second conversation ended with me saying, "You're the reason that men kill themselves." And he said, "I'm so proud of that." At that moment, I disconnected him and blocked him. He instructed his army, which he has this big online army, to report me. and so my live stream got shut down after that point. And then he has about 20 alternative accounts because he's a degenerate sack of shit. He's a pick-me groomer. He picks on vulnerable people. And like I said, he's a pick-me, so he tries to stand up for them, but really he's just grooming them because he's a sack of shit. So from one of his 20 alternative accounts, he sends me, 20 messages being like, "You didn't let me finish my thought. You're taking it out of context, blah, blah, blah." So I uploaded the conversations I had with him, and he didn't take them too well. So what he did after that point was he sent me a message on Discord saying, "You have to give me $150. I said, "Go fuck yourself." So then what he started doing was, he was kind of already doing this, but he really kicked it into high drive. He started stalking me and spreading all these lies about me. He created all these photoshopped screenshots of me or not of me, but of like things I had said, and invented context around a lot of them and just told the most idiotic lies and would spread them all over the internet. And then eventually, he worked with Dean Withers, helped him to do this, by the way. Then what they did was they found out where I worked, and my former employer, they actually do their school board meetings on Zoom, and so they're public. So he recruited 2 people from like random ass places in the country to attend the school board meeting and tell all these lies. And even they know that they are lies because they've been called out on them before. So they do that. They also emailed people from my school. Oh, by the way, we now know who Irish is. I've actually known this for quite a long time. There's a Reddit Snark Page dedicated to him and all of his debauchery and all that stuff. There's also a YouTube channel that's compiled like every single live stream they can find that he did. So if you want to investigate just peer into the mind of a sadistic, psychopathic, lying, pick-me groomer sack of shit, you can check those out. The links will be in the description. So what came about through this is the school basically let these people talk for reasons I don't understand, because I knew a week ahead of time that they were doing this, and I submitted all the evidence of their past criminal behavior and lies. And I was told that they weren't going to be able to defame me, but they let them do it anyways. So the school invited me in. I demonstrated more of the same thing about the nature in which these people have stalked other people, in which they have done terrorism to other people, the fact that they are sexual predators. And I showed several instances of how I know for a fact that they're lying and that they know they are lying. So like just an example I will give you. They claimed that I was like inviting or sheltering pedophiles in Discord. And the reason they say that is because sometimes a Muslim would join and they would be asked to condemn Muhammad's marriage to Aisha, and they like never do. And so sometimes people would call that like endorsing or defending or whatever pedophilia. And so they would grab instances of that and be like, why is Peterson sheltering pedophiles? Again, they know that that's a lie. I literally called them out on it. Multiple people called them out on it, and they would always backtrack and deflect instead of answering for, why did you tell this proven lie? So I demonstrated all of the fabrications and the nature of these people to the school pretty unequivocally. Now, I asked the school repeatedly, what is the school's position on this? If somebody just spreads lies and they have no evidence to back up these lies, is the school's position going to be, well, if you say things that sound terrible, but you have nothing to back them up, then we can't go with them? Or is the school's position going to be, wow, this all sounds really bad, so we just want to separate ourselves from this person just because the claims exist? They wouldn't answer that question. The school specifically told me, we haven't looked into the accusations. We don't have the capacity to look into them. That is important to remember. So what they did was they came up with the most laughably made up reason to fire me. They said that I violated FERPA, which is teacher-student confidentiality. They say I violated FERPA because this one time I used the first name of a student when talking to a friend. And then they said I violated the teacher handbook policy because on a couple of occasions during lunch, when I was in my room alone, I took a video of myself that I then later posted to social media. So all of that, sorry, that went on for longer than I kind of thought, but that's the backstory that some of you have already heard. Now here's the update. This is Mike Romero. He's like the chief business officer or something at the school that I worked at, and his other official title is lying piece of shit. This is Jorge Aguilar. He is the superintendent, and he also shares the co-official title of lying piece of shit. I have to tell you about the school a little bit before moving on, because I think it kind of helps make sense of this. The school is called Wonderful College Prep Academy in Delano, California. The school was sort of like this ideological project of the Resnicks. Specifically, I think it's more Linda Resnick than her husband, whatever his name is. She's the CEO of Wonderful. So pistachios, the halos, the pomegranate juice, all that stuff. The school, honestly, it's incredible. The administrators that I worked with, the fellow teachers, I've never worked with a more competent and amazing group of people. The benefits and the facilities at the school are also like super incredible. The lunchroom, I mean, just look at the lunchroom. I mean, the meals they cooked were also just unbelievable, and the teachers ate for free. But image and PR is kind of like working there and talking to people. You get the idea that that's all that matters, like to the Resnicks and the people higher up. To give you an example of this, the school doesn't have a library, which is like some billionaires build a school with these incredible facilities, but they don't build a library. It makes less than 0 cents. However, when the school opened and Linda Resnick came to tour the school, what they did was they took this room that wasn't really being used for anything, and they filled it with fake books. They used those fake like cardboard books that you can buy as decorations. So they literally spent huge sums of money to build a fake library so that so they could trick her into thinking that there is one, or so that they could take photos in the room and then they could post them online and make it seem like there's a library. Yeah, shit like that. So back to Mr. Romero and Mr. Aguilar. Romero is the one that I spoke to. Now, if you'll remember, he told me, we didn't look into any of the accusations that these people made about you. We don't have the capacity to look into them. Well, I didn't find out about this until much later. But Jorge Aguilar replied to the email that he was sent by one of the people that Irish recruited to go to the school board meeting. I don't know if Mr. Romero knew that or not. I can't know that. I highly suspect that he did, but I don't know. But this claim, we didn't look into it, we don't have the capacity to look into it, is false. And I really, really want to know why Jorge Aguilar chose to work with these people. Because again, over a week ahead of time, I told the school in great detail who these people are, what they do, how you know that they're liars, and their background behind all this, like all the other times they had done this to people. Now that's pretty bad. Here's what else I did. Remember, the school said, oh, well, Mr. Peterson, you used the first name of a student and you used social media while at work. So what I did was I looked on social media to see if other people that work there do this. First of all, the school literally has its own social media pages, like an Instagram. They go around taking photos of students. They post the students' names, events like pep rallies, random on-campus things, sporting events. The school takes pictures of kids. Without their permission, they post them. When I worked there, at least, when they launched this, there was a form that you could sign to opt out. Like a parent could sign and be like, I don't give you permission to post any pictures or whatever that have my child in them. But if you don't sign that, which how many kids even show their parents something they take home? You know, so the school doesn't need your consent at all to take photos of your children and post them online and to even use their names. You have to opt out of that. Now, I didn't do anything like that. It was only ever me. So they used social media on campus, fired me for it. But they also say that I violated FERPA by using a student's first name. You post pictures of your students on the internet. And you know what? So do your teachers, and they know it. I went on social media and I saw all kinds of posts, literally hundreds of them, of teachers and actually somebody who's a principal at the school taking pictures of students on campus, posting their names and faces, sometimes just posting like schoolwork or whatever that they did, but, you know, posting their names and all of that kind of stuff. If using social media when you're at work is a fireable offense, and if saying a student's first name is a violation of FERPA, these people are all violating FERPA. They're all violating the employee handbook. They all need to be terminated immediately, not given any kind of warning. That didn't happen with me. So what I did a long time ago, back in April, was I emailed the school with all of this. And I said, it has come to my attention that WCPA let go one of its employees last summer for posting something to social media they recorded while at work and for using a student's name, violating FERPA in an online post. As you can see here, multiple employees have violated FERPA on multiple occasions by posting names of students online while also posting to social media pictures and videos they took while on campus. I trust that the school will also terminate these employees as FERPA violations are extremely serious, and it would be wrong to not terminate these employees instead of giving them a warning since your prior employee was not given that opportunity. To which they responded, "Thank you for sharing your concern. We appreciate your input. However, we are unable to discuss personnel-related matters with anyone other than the parties involved." To which I replied, with receipts, "I'm confused because as you can see here, you have absolutely discussed matters of this nature with people who have reported teacher misconduct. Have the individuals who violated FERPA and broke the school's employee handbook policy about social media use, have they been disciplined yet?" At this point, Jorge Aguilar, the superintendent, responded, "We should respond and reiterate that we do not and cannot share personnel information." I mean, maybe with respect specifically to, well, we can't tell you if we've disciplined them or not, but you absolutely did reach out to somebody for more information. I mean, for crying out loud, he specifically said in that email, "We greatly appreciate if you could provide any additional information you have, as well as names and contact details for other people." And then Mr. Romero also said, "Again, we appreciate your input, but we can't discuss personnel-related matters." Now, I did this just to demonstrate the hypocrisy. They know I didn't violate FERPA. They know that people that are employed there use social media on campus. They know it. And they would never fire anybody for those things unless they were like doing something seriously unethical while doing it. And you know what? Next week on Thursday, the school has its next school board meeting. Maybe I'll attend and maybe I'll discuss, maybe I'll tell the board of directors, hey, why did the superintendent choose to work with criminals? And why has the school not terminated employees for violating FERPA and for breaking the employee handbook code on social media use? Why did they do this one time and not do it the other time? As far as I'm concerned, these two pieces of shit should not have jobs. And yes, this does personally involve me, but knowingly, falsely reporting a teacher. Oh, yeah, this is the other part I haven't got to yet. They reported me to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and they know that their report is false. They know it's not a FERPA violation, and they know that they are utter hypocrites with respect to the employee handbook thing. As far as I'm concerned, they're basically criminals too. And so I guess that's the next thing here. So I was planning on making an update about this a really long time ago, but I got a letter, I don't even remember when it was. It was back in like February, I think, from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, because violating FERPA is a crime that I did not commit, but the school's basically obligated to report it since they fired me for that reason. So yeah, no, I wasn't allowed to discuss this during this time because it's sort of like a legal investigation. I had to like, when they actually heard my case or whatever, I had to like swear an oath of secrecy. I was told I'm not even like nobody. I attended virtually, but they're like, you have to make sure that nobody in your house can hear you, not even your spouse. I was like, fuck, okay, yeah. I submitted all kinds of documents to them that I feel exonerated me. Literally, people that do audits for things like FERPA violations have reached out to me personally and said, absolutely, what you did is not a violation of FERPA. The other thing that's kind of more disturbing is the vast majority of all the stuff that the school has submitted to the CTC is literally just all the lies, which is all hearsay. So again, I could talk about this detail of it at length. But so all that happened. I submitted all kinds of evidences and made my case to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And what they decided back in, I think it was early August, they said, well, we found probable cause for what? I don't know, because they didn't say. And so they said, we're going to suspend your credential for 60 days. And I was just like, whatever. Maybe Linda Resnick wrote a check or something. Who knows? But then a few weeks ago, I got another letter from them, and they said, in September, we reconsidered the matter regarding your suspension, and we're going to suspend it for 140 days. I don't know if this is additional or in total. So like 140 days, but the 60 days are part of that because it doesn't say. Again, they don't give a reason for any of this. Now inside of here is all of the evidence or whatever, and it's just stuff submitted by Wonderful. But literally, virtually all of it, again, is just all the hearsay. Now, this is all pretty official. They take it pretty serious. They try to model themselves after an actual court of law. I'm not a legal expert, but I didn't think that you could submit hearsay as evidence. But that's virtually all they're using. None of it has anything to do with the whole reason that they reported me, which was a false accusation of violating FERPA. I have an advanced degree, and I have over 10 years of teaching experience behind my belt. In California, I make over $90,000 on the salary schedule as a teacher. I'm 34, which means I could teach for 31 more years. So your pay goes up, so I'm almost at $100,000. So let's call it $3 million. These liars, these criminals, these co-conspirators, by which I mean the higher ups at my former employer. They are co-conspirators, if you ask me. They're just taking that away from me. And at this point, I don't know. I just feel like giving up. I mean, I'll probably submit an appeal, but they're just going to do whatever they want. And so now on my record, despite all these things being lies, I have to live with that and try and never be able to find a teaching job. I've been asked by people, why don't you sue? Well, I have tried a few things. I tried to get a restraining order on Irish over a year ago because I know that everything he says about me is a lie, and that those people told provable lies at the school board meeting. So because they attended via Zoom, the school can actually collect their IP address of anybody that attended the Zoom meeting. So I tried to get that information so I could pursue issuing a restraining order. The restraining order would make it so that if these people ever talked, like they would be banned from talking about me and spreading their lies. And if they ever did, they'd be violating the restraining order and they could be arrested. Well, in short, I don't live in the same county as where the school is. So I filed the police report in my county, and the detective I worked with, he was really an amazing guy. He gave me so much help, but he said in the end, well, look, because you were harmed or the loss or whatever occurred in a different county, I don't have jurisdiction. So he filed a report. He went to all this really incredible, in these incredible lengths. He even worked with the FBI because Irish has an FBI agent assigned to him for his past crimes. Worked with him, was able to positively identify him, at least in a data bank. Did all this amazing work. Sent it over to the police department or whatever in Delano. They called me. They said, yeah, we're not doing anything about this. I said, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you don't live in our county. I was like, yeah, but they don't have subpoena power. I can't subpoena the school for those IP addresses, or the police department here can't do that. And they just basically said, get wrecked, loser. And that was the end of it. I've called over a dozen law offices because I think I have a wrongful termination case. I can't find anybody. Like, nobody does this kind of work. 9 out of 10 lawyers are like disability lawyers or something like that. The very few employment lawyers I found, they just said, oh, well, we only represent the employer, not the employee. Very American that nobody's standing up for workers. So that's basically the story. Well, actually, one more thing. Back in January, I actually took a teaching job. It was a local school here in my own town. And, well, it lasted about 4 or 5 weeks. Apparently, the teacher that they hired at the beginning of the year quit on day 3, and they had a long-term sub in there. But then they looked at my application and they reached out to me and offered me the job. Yeah, I can see why they quit. It was the most horrendous, miserable experience of my professional life. It's not even close. Nobody even tried to pay attention, except for I had a couple of students in every classroom, and you could just see how crushed they were, like in their faces, by the fact that they couldn't learn or feel safe or have a good time at school at all because of everything else that's going on. It was just uncountable the number of times I heard, fuck you, you bitch ass N-word, every single class period. I had kids trying to put their hands on me. They would throw things, literally just blasting music constantly in the middle of class. And there was nothing you could do about it. You do have the right as a teacher to suspend students from class for reasons like the reasons I just gave. And I thought about, do I just do this every single day? Give kids in school suspension the moment they start doing this? I thought about it, and then I was just like, no, I'm not going to, because I would just turn into a villain. I would be accused of being racist for doing this. And I was just like, this is absolutely not worth it at all. So I resigned. And I had huge reservations about doing that because I've never quit anything like that before. And I do think that what I do is important. And I felt really guilty about it. But, jeez. That was back in January. The whole thing with my credential, that didn't happen until just about 2 months ago. So that's a story I haven't told yet. So there you go. And the other reason I feel like giving up on this part of my life or whatever is I am actually pretty happy. I do now make a comfortable living doing what I do. That's fairly recent. Now it is very, there's a lot about it that's stressful. I don't know if I can do this, how long I can do this for. Maybe one day people just stop caring. And so this does not become something that works for me, is that I cannot support myself with. And I don't have an expectation of ever becoming, somebody that makes several $100,000 or something like that a year doing this. But even if I were making about the same amount of money I do when I'm teaching, it doesn't come with a retirement plan. It doesn't come with health insurance. It doesn't come with any kind of benefits. So it's less secure. But it is kind of working. Another reason I've kind of given up is that I have changed a lot since all of this happened a year ago. And I kind of decided, well, I kind of have no choice but to do this, which is actually something I've always wanted to do. It's just that it sort of happened through no choice of my own. I have very much become much more unhinged since I am no longer a teacher. I make jokes that I wouldn't otherwise do if I were still a teacher. I say things that I wouldn't otherwise say. I state my political beliefs more than I would if I were a teacher. And I took care to be a reserved person when I was teaching. I tried really, really hard, just like not even to swear. To be very clear, I did fail a healthy number of times, but it was much different than the way things are now and have been for a little over a year. Yeah, that's the story. I'm happy to walk away from all of this forever, and this is who I am now. This is what I do now. I guess I'm not a teacher. I don't want to or plan on lamenting over this. It's not going to be my new thing. I'm not going to be out for revenge. Absolutely, the people responsible for this should be called out on it. They should absolutely face consequences. I'm sure they won't, but I feel like making this video is an important thing to do. I actually do hope that people in that community learn about what these people did. I do plan on speaking out against them and their hypocrisy and the way they conspired with criminals and liars. It's off my chest now. I do plan on this being the end. Something really dramatic would have to happen for me to ever talk about it again. So if you watched up until now, thank you for that. I know this isn't the usual content. Like I said, I don't plan on talking about this ever again. I actually kind of hope I don't need to, but it's a story I've been wanting and feeling like I need to tell for a while. So I did it. Thank you for watching, and you will see me tomorrow. In addition to autographed copies of both my books and of course Spanky, I'm excited to announce that I now have stickers, tumblers, apparel, and more on my store. Take Spanky, the God-defeating penguin, and can you put that into a logical syllogism, with you wherever you go now.